Episode 2 of All In with Colin. I am your host, Colin Sheehan. I've made it to episode 2. They didn't cancel me after episode 1, so that is a good thing. I'm feeling really under the weather this week, so I'm sorry that I sound a little hoarse, and yes, pun intended. But I am really excited to be welcoming in a couple of voices that I've met off of Twitter, some handicappers who are going to be on to provide some angles that they look for when they're looking at a horse race. I did give them a little homework assignment, and I asked them to pick out a couple of Belmont Stakes contenders and give me a positive angle on why they will win, and maybe a negative angle on why they won't win, or why they are concerned about that horse and the confidence that they have in him. And so with that, I am glad to introduce one of the most positive people I've seen on Twitter. That is Sean Patrick Nolan, SPN Nation 74. You can give him a follow, and you'll see all the connections he has. And most importantly, a fellow Bostonian like me. Right, Sean?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Colin. It's great. Go Celtics.
Absolutely. It was the perfect timing to have someone from Boston and someone from the left coast on in a little theme with the NBA Finals that we got going on between the Celtics and the Warriors. We are taping this just as about for Game 3 about to kick off, which should be exciting for us all. So, Sean, I also noticed on your Twitter profile there, runner of half marathons. I have to check in and ask on that because I've done a few myself. Does that mean you are in training all the time or have done multiple? What's with that?
I've done multiple. I haven't done a couple in a couple of years because of COVID. So, and a couple of years ago, I had a slight attack of sciatica, which stopped me a little bit. But over the last year and a half, I've been building up stronger, and hopefully a nice return to the. I've done Norwell and a couple other half marathons, and so hopefully a return in the near future will be in the cards. So we're doing pretty well.
Awesome. It's a tough accomplishment. I know the pain it takes to get through that. So congrats on the ones
Absolutely.
you've completed.
Thank you very much. Absolutely.
And so, as I've said, this show is really about trying to get as many different voices on to hear about different angles that they look at when they're handicapping races. And so, before we get to the Belmont Stakes, which is what everyone wants to come to this for, just curious, what's an angle that you apply to or pay attention to when you're handicapping your races?
It's amazing to be like a new bettor. There's so many angles. It's amazing. But the ones I kind of my bread and butter would definitely be, especially when it comes to like Naira, Churchill, Laurel. I mean, almost any track it could really apply to would be the horses for the courses. Who runs well on that course and who doesn't? Like the perfect example I'll give you, I'll use Naira as a perfect example. There are so many horses I've seen that just run incredibly well at Belmont, but when they get up to Saratoga, they look like a completely different horse. And so many handicappers who are newer will look at their last couple of races and say, "Oh, he won 2 races in a row at Belmont. He's going to destroy this group." But you look in his past performance, you dig a little bit, and he's 0 for 3 at Saratoga, and all of a sudden he comes in 5th. And then people are like, "Oh, he won 2 in a row." Well, the horse just clearly doesn't care for Saratoga like Belmont. They're 2 totally different tracks. So very much the same kind of like with Churchill Downs. Churchill Downs looks like, I was even talking to Caitlin Free the other night about it, where she does the handicapping. It looks like just a simple, plain dirt track. Like there's no, like it doesn't seem like there's any magic to it. But there are horses that love it, and then there are other horses that just can't stand it. And and to find those things, I find it so helpful. Even if it's a track I haven't played for, look for the horses, especially in the local races, that have done well on that track. And I think that's really helped me over the years.
Yeah, and I think a perfect example of that we witnessed on the big stage at the Kentucky Derby, right? Because Rich Strike's one big win that if you went back through the past performances, what did he win by, 13 lengths or something crazy over the Churchill Dirt?
Perfect example right there. Exactly. They're just horses that, exactly. I've seen horses that have just come down to Churchill, even like stakes horses who have won like 3, 4 in a row, and they look fabulous. And then they come to Churchill, and they're just their wheels spin the entire time on the track. And it's amazing. But yeah, Rich Strike, give him credit. Exactly, two races on Churchill, 2 wins, not too shabby. One
Yeah,
on the biggest stage of them all.
yeah, and that's one thing I pay attention to, and an angle that I actually had success on Monday with was not only, same track, but type of surface, so dirt versus turf. And I think next
Sure.
week's show, I have this great example of what happened Monday, where I found a race where you had a ton of horses that loved running on the turf. I'm sorry, they had all run on the dirt and they were low level claimers, so they hadn't knocked the wheels off anybody. And then there was a horse who had 25 races with 1 win, and that day the race was being run on the turf. He had 7 races, and he had a first, second, and third all on the turf. And he
Right.
won at 8 or 9 to 1. So that was an angle that I'm going to do in
Oh,
next week's show. Yep, and that's what
that
helped
was that
me.
one here.
That was at Parks, I believe.
Parks. Oh yeah, awesome. Yeah, it's a great angle. It really is,
Yep,
and you get a
and
great price from doing it.
yep. And so, how about distance? Is that something that you incorporate into that angle as well?
Definitely, yeah. Especially with Belmont and those guys, one turn. Like I we'll get into We the People later, but but everyone was talking about how great his race was. He won by 10 lengths, but it's one turn. Now he goes 2 turns, which it can be a big difference. Like how many times do you see like a Belmont form where you're only going one, and then they go to another track like a Monmouth, which is a little bit thinner, in the rails, and they don't quite fit, like because they want that big sweeping turn. And the other tracks it's around 2 turns, and when they try the 2 turns for the first time, sometimes they just don't like it. So it's a distance is definitely a big factor for me, and that's where a lot of the breeding comes in terms of if you're going from like a 6 furlong to a mile and 16th, or a mile 16th to a mile and a half. Who's got the breeding that can make that change? That's a
Hmm.
big factor.
Yeah, and admittedly for myself, that's a weakness of mine is paying attention to the 2 turns versus the 1 turns, and something that I can certainly improve upon. And so, what is the what do you like when you see a horse? Is it one that has gone 2 turns multiple times and has been successful, and you're playing that back? Or are you looking for a horse that maybe has gone 1 turn and now they're trying 2 turns and you think they'll do better on the 2 turns?
A little bit of both, which is interesting because what I love is the turn back, like a horse that maybe runs a competitive race at a mile and then switches back in distance, trying to, because he'll run a little bit sharper. Him or her will run possibly a little bit sharper and have more stamina coming down the lane. But obviously, like Shug McGahee is known for like running a horse at 6 furlongs and then stretching them out to a mile and 16th, mile and eighth on the turf, and you just shake your head, and they go right to the lead and they win wire to wire, and you're like, so obviously pedigree helps in those type of moves, but it can work both ways. It's kind of like what the trainer likes to do, knowing what the trainer likes to do, but also the breeding that will allow that change from a shorter distance to a longer distance to occur.
And is that just years of experience where you've built up the knowledge over the trainer? Is that what you would give to kind of newer players? You have to take notes, or how do you kind of keep that track of all that?
Yeah, yeah. Over time, if you follow a track enough, you can kind of tell a trainer's kind of methods or what he likes to do, his MO. And as Shog, that's definitely his MO: is start them short and then run them long. Exactly. So if you know a trainer and their kind of tendencies on what they like to do, then that definitely helps. But obviously, for the new player, it's following a certain circuit for a while to kind of get to know what that trainer likes to do.
Yeah, it's so important. It's like Bill Mott's second time out, right? Over
Oh,
first time.
exactly. Or when he does that dreaded surface switch, like he did with Drosselmeyer and a couple when he won the Jim Dandy a couple of years ago against almost always dreaming, and where the horse just came out of nowhere, coming off the turf and just blew their doors out in the Jim Dandy. So you always got to watch Bill Mott on that switch.
Yep, yep.
He's a genius for
At big
that.
odds. At big odds too, usually.
Big odds, absolutely, absolutely.
All right, so with that, let's jump into the Belmont Stakes for this Saturday. As I had said, I was hoping to get a couple different angles, both positive and negative, for some horses that are running, and I'm curious, where would you like to start?
I will start with Creative Minister.
Okay, let's bring him up here. Here we go.
Absolutely, absolutely. There he is. Absolutely. So
What
you
do you
look at
see?
this horse. Okay, yeah. So what I'm seeing with this horse, okay, this is an interesting horse. He was a 180K purchase. Okay, love the fact that that Churchill Downs allowance to me, the optional claiming, just absolutely took that field over with absolute ease. Went from an 86 buyer to a 101 buyer. That's huge. That's stepping it up, right? Love the fact he's out of Giants Causeway with Creative Cause, which out of Giants Causeway, and a Tappet Dam, which clearly says Creator, tonalist. You go through it. They're all the winners lately have had somewhere Tappet has been involved. God bless Fabiano.
Hmm.
But and but 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 anywhere those horses are eligible, they can run all day. So if you're looking for breeding, this is the type of horse right here. I think he's got like even like Northern Dancer in the thing. He can go all day, So he's one. I love them in the Preakness. Stepping up from the optional to the Grade One was stuck on the rail. Usually young horses quit. He didn't catch the top two, but he was right there with them, and I think that was a huge move up.
Yeah, absolutely. And but I have a concern for Creative Minister, so I don't want to overstep you because I don't know what your concern is. But let's hear what your concern for Creative Minister would be coming into this race.
Okay, we're going a little bit on the. I'm a big fan of Ken McPeak. Okay, but the one negative I have on him is when he falls in love with a horse, he sometimes runs them too much. You know what I'm saying? And for a young horse to go, this is going to be his third race in 5 weeks. Now I know the optional claiming he won with relatively ease, so I'll give that. But to go from that to the Preakness to Grade One to a mile and a half, and the other thing is, and this is a big angle, Brian Hernandez is a very talented young rider. He does not ride at Belmont a lot. That mile and a half distance is so tricky. Like we all remember when Stu Elliott moved too early on Smarty Jones, right? When you don't ride there a lot, right? That you think you're coming to the turn, you're like, oh, we're almost home. No, no, no. You still got a long way to go. And
Hmm.
to know when to make that move, when to not move, that's definitely always a big concern of mine. So I think talent wise, this may be the best horse in the race, but there's a lot of, with the jockey and the 3 and the 5 weeks, there's definitely hesitation there.
Yep, and so I'm glad I didn't steal your thunder because that was my exact concern of Creative Minister. Three races in 5 weeks. That is the Triple Crown Series. If you're starting on the Derby and going to Pimlico and then the Belmont, that's 3 races in 5 weeks. This horse has just done it in a different fashion, right? And all the talk has been about running and the spacing of these races. So that would be my concern about Creative Minister, and actually my concern as well was Brian Hernandez. And some of these big, huge races, especially at Belmont, jockey experience can make a huge difference. But it sounded like you're pretty high on Creative Minister.
Yeah, I think talent wise, I think he's one of the best 3 year olds we have in the nation. I think he'll only get better. I'm just worried a little bit about the spacing of it. A little bit of a Swiss skydiver here. Let's just keep running. You know what I'm saying? And I hope for him either he gets a real good layoff or after this, or but I think talent wise he's right up there with everybody.
So that was something great to hear because I hadn't really thought about Ken McPeak and falling in love and how many times he runs them. So something I'll certainly watch out for. So I appreciate that. Who are we going to next?
We will go with We the People.
The 2-1 favorite
Yep.
right here. And I actually have left my note on the page here, which is I was concerned that he needs the lead, but we will let you do the drive. And why do you like We the People on Saturday?
Well, I mean, obviously, I think the it, that race he ran in the Peter Pan was so impressive, and I'm not. I definitely will use him. Obviously, he's again. Here's the Tappan influence out of Constitution, out of Tisnow. We know we know distance is not going to be a problem for him, But and Flavian has just look what can't that kid do? I mean, it's amazing what he he just has so much patience with the animal, and I wonder if he gets the lead, who's going to go out with him? You know what I mean? If he just if Flavian just is so adept at getting horses to just relax and be patient, if he is in fact by himself, that and they let him go, he could be long gone. So he definitely. It will be interesting to see the chess match that's going on ahead, because if he is in the lead and he's running comfortably, they may have a real tough time catching him down the lane.
Do you think that's why he was installed as the favorite because of the pace of the race and him being possibly the early speed?
I really do. I really do. Yeah, exactly. So many Belmonts are one year or on the lead. I know everyone falls in love with a closer that comes from way, back, but really, so many times the winner is within 2, 3 lengths of the leader, even coming into the stretch. They're close by. So I think the his early speed and his adept speed is definitely something that you have to play. I don't. He's not one that you would single, but I would definitely think he's the one that definitely is the one to beat. If that's my interpretation.
Yeah, so my note here, as you see on my PP, says need the lead. And as a handicapper, one thing you look at is when you see a horse that for the most part has a lot of these ones uh, in their past performances, and then you see this race where they didn't get the lead and finished well out of the money. I don't think there's enough races that have been. He hasn't run enough yet to know that for sure. But if I'm
Right.
playing out in my head a way to defeat a horse like this, hey, I'm going to throw that angle out there and I'm going to write it down and say if I need to find a way to find another winner, then maybe that's something that would play out. It's too early to know that, but it's something that I was just playing around with because I do like a longer shot in this particular race. What would be your concern for We the People?
Yeah, this is the big concern right here. At the Arkansas Derby,
Hmm.
okay, was he was completely washed out before the race. I mean, he had already run his race before the race even started. He didn't even get a call. You know what I'm saying? So you throw that race out
Look at this. Look
on
at this
one hand
note.
and say,
The note
yeah,
is
yeah,
the note is washy.
Washington. Yeah. He was done before the race even started. Okay, and obviously the bounce back is great to see. But think of this: how many people are going to be at Belmont if he had a problem at Oaklawn, right? I mean, obviously there's not 50,000, 100,000 people for the Peter Pan. If he had a problem on Arkansas Derby Day, what's he going to be like on Belmont Day with 100,000 New York playing and like you know, to watch him before the race is going to be key because he may already tell you whether he's going to run or not. So that's my big concern about him.
So is that when I wasn't thinking about that. When you say washy and was done before the race, was that because of something you noticed in his performance pre-race? Did you pick up on something where he was nervous
Yeah,
or?
yeah, he was very washed out. He was very nervous. He was very antsy. There's a lot of people at the Arkansas Derby, a lot of noise, a lot of these horses when they run in some of these prep races don't often have the huge crowds. But when you get up to the Triple Crown, it's 100,000 plus roaring in every second. And if he's doing that at the Arkansas Derby, one has to wonder what he will be like on Belmont Day.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great thing that I hadn't seen or heard yet. So I'm glad we get some new info coming out there. So great job, Sean. And then
Yeah.
last, where are we going to next?
The last one we'll go is Nest,
That's the
the
filly.
filly. After you put in the filly, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So
Exactly, and obviously, I'll just quickly put this. If you had my pick, I'm just trying to do positive and negative here for the people. But obviously, Mo Donegal. The
Hmm.
longer he goes, the better. He's gonna. I'm definitely throwing him in, but I'm not gonna really go into him because I think he'll just be solid. He's got Irad, he's got Todd. I mean, what more would you want at Belmont Park?
For sure.
But the filly. This is an interesting lady. Curlin out of Smart Strike for all you Canadian racing fans. They love Smart Strike exactly. And you're out of an AP Indy mare. So obviously this lady can run all day. And look at her record on Belmont: two starts, one win, one third, and she was gaining on third at a mile. Now again, we will notice that it's one turn. She's run twice at a one turn. This will be her first time around two turns, right? However, she handled the two turns at Churchill. She handled the two turns great at Keeneland. So I don't see any reason why she can't handle the mile and a half and the two turns here. And she also doesn't get. I know everyone loves to compare everyone to rags to riches. Is she the next rags to riches? Is she going to beat the boys? Right? And I usually don't like the fillies running a mile and a half. I'm not usually a big fan of that. But if Todd Pletcher, who had rags to riches, and Rapoli, if he thinks she's got a chance, right, then definitely she has a chance to get the mile and a half. And she doesn't get the biggest field here. A lot of the big guys are out. So I think it's a perfect opportunity for her to try.
And this goes exactly to what we opened up with horse for courses. So you found the one that you can apply right to this race. Obviously, there haven't been many fillies that have taken down the boys in the Belmont Stakes. My concern, I think, was the performance of Secret Oath. And when you start doing this horse faced this horse, and this is how that horse performed, how is Ness going to do against the boys? Is that your concern, or do you have something else?
Yeah, yeah. The other thing is too is that her top buyer's 92. She's got to step up if she's gonna beat the boys. But the equalizers, and that's my main negative right there for her, is that her buyers just aren't the level of the guys right now. But if you look at it a mile and a half, and it maybe plays out, if she gets a little early move on some of the other guys like Mo Donegal and those guys who are coming from behind, if creative minister, if she gets the jump on them, there's no reason why her buyer couldn't go up, but she definitely has to step up her game if she's going to be there at the finish line of the mile and a half.
That's awesome. Good stuff. And so now we'll just put you on the spot for going through those. Where have you landed for who you like for the Belmont?
Okay, so obviously, creative minister is my favorite horse, right? And in the race, and I'm going to use him because I still think he's one of the best horses in the race. Obviously, I think the filly is worth using, and obviously, if We the People gets out, But ironically, I'm with Mo Donegal. I think this has been Todd's uh, kind of selected race. I think for him all along. The longer he goes, the better. Even versus early voting in the Wood Memorial. Look how good early voting ran in the Preakness. He just patiently warmed down, got the win. Didn't have to do anything more. Just got the measure of him. Irad knew he had him and passed him. So I think in the mile and a half, Irad's going to know exactly where he's going to have to place him. And to me, Mo Donegal's definitely for me the person to beat. And hey, Mike Rapoli winning the Belmont, how great would that be?
Yeah, I've been huge on Mo Donegal. So the one prep race that I actually did really well with was Mo Donegal in the Wood. And what a nice ride that was in the stretch. He closed really well. The Derby is such a crapshoot with how big the field is, and he came 10 wide with Barber Road right to his outside. If you've followed, I've started to get on this Barber Road kick because my thing is that if you look at those two races, Mo Donegal, or if you look at the Kentucky Derby, Mo Donegal and Barber Road, basically to me ran the same race, and you're getting 10 to
Yeah.
1 on Barber Road and 5 to 2 on Mo Donegal. So I'm always
And by the way, a huge jockey change. I love Raylu, but in a mile and a half race at Belmont, who knows that better than Joel Rosario? And what a huge change that is he will know exactly what he has to do. So if you're a Barber Road fan, that is a big change in a positive way.
Yeah, absolutely. And he grinds. He's always there. Second, third. I don't, like you said with Nest, I don't think this group is that big of a difference from top to bottom. So I think you have somewhat of a wide open race as long as, and that's what I'm worried about, is we the people going wire to wire and closing it out like early voting did would be my concern.
Absolutely.
So here's a great video that we didn't even touch on Rich Strike on. I love it. We gave out some angles that are off the beaten path. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on with me. I appreciate how positive you are on Twitter, and it's been great having interactions with you. And anybody that comes from Boston is welcome on my show anytime to go back and look through the past performances. So thank you, Sean.
Oh, thanks, my friend. I so appreciate you having me on. Absolutely. Go Celtics, and I hope you feel better. It's been a real privilege to be on with you, my friend. Best of luck this weekend. Should be a great weekend.